my tips for you is like when you're using this and when you're using social media in general, don't just go in with cold replies and just go in and blanket reply to everybody. Like
Yeah.
actually go in and look at the person's timeline. Determine the tone that you need to talk to them
Hmm.
and then adjust your response.
Welcome to the Other 99% podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Duck, a coffee loving direct sales enthusiast who's obsessed with a good digital system. Come join me for a realistic look into the world of direct sales. We'll explore inspiring perspectives, learn about unique business tips, and celebrate success stories that often go untold. Because on the other 99%, every seller matters.
Hey everyone, it is me, Lisa, and welcome back to another episode of The Other 99%. I'm so excited to be here again with Susan. I keep hearing that everybody is super happy to see that we are now working together on this podcast, and we're getting great feedback. So I'm excited to bring you another episode. And in today's episode, we decided to talk to you guys about communication or communicating with different generations. So I'm going to jump over to Susan, and she's going to tell you basically why we picked this topic.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be a regular co-host on the podcast. Lisa and I love doing this, so we hope you love it too. So we wanted to talk about the communicating with different generations of people because it's something that you'll be able to use with your team. I'm sure you have teammates who are maybe from their 20s into their 70s or 80s. So it's important to know how to communicate with your team. And it's also important to know how to communicate with your customers. We have customers of all different ages. And Lisa and I were talking earlier, and one script will not be appropriate for all generations. So, what we're going to do is kind of go through the different generations. We're going to tell you the years that the generations cover, what makes them tick, what to avoid, what you should say, what you shouldn't say, and all those things. So we hope that you enjoy this, and we hope you find a lot of good benefit from it.
Awesome. So let's start off with our baby boomers who were born in between 1946 and 1964. Um, so let's jump in and sort of get to know what makes them tick.
Yeah, so this generation, they are very loyal. They are, you want to treat them with respect. They love tradition and they are a very responsible group. So Lisa and I are around the same age. This is like our parents' age. I
Uh-huh.
know my parents fall into this. My dad was a hard worker. I mean, they are loyal, they are responsible, they have worked their way through most of their lives, and they got the home and the job and the career and the family, and just very, very responsible.
Yeah, for sure. So what usually works for this demographic?
Yeah, so you want to communicate with the baby boomers face to face if you can. They like to be face to face or a personal phone call. They also like handwritten notes. So you're not going to want to Zoom with them. You're not going to want to text with them. They want that face to face, really personal interaction.
Yeah, so I can think of when I was in Epicure, a lot of I shouldn't say a lot, but a number of the leaders were in this demographic. And it was funny because trying to get them to switch to the Zoom when the
Yeah.
pivot came and trying to get them to not call me because I don't like picking up the phone,
Right.
right? It's just like, can you just jump on a Zoom so I could see your face when we're talking or something? Or could you just send me a quick text? But they insisted on picking up the phone. And it was funny because it was very hard for them to change, right? And
Yeah.
and that's why when we go through, you're going to see the differences between that. Um, so what should we avoid when we're dealing with baby boomers?
Yeah. So you don't want to use any slang. I mean, my kids, they're in a different generation than I am. And the words they say, I don't even understand.
No.
So don't use slang. And also don't be too casual. Don't be dismissive of their time. They deserve a lot of respect and they want a lot of respect. So don't be very casual, don't use slang, just be more formal with them. And it's also important to know that not everyone born between 1946 and 1964 will be all in with these guidelines. You know, you have baby boomers who enjoy Zoom and enjoy texting, but this is kind of the generalization for each generation.
Yeah, for sure. So, what examples, if you're thinking about writing scripts, what examples of some things that you should, or if you're talking to them, what should you be saying to them?
Yeah, so focus on that respect piece. So you might want to say your input really matters here, or can I get your insight on this? They want to know that their opinion matters and that you really value their opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just before we hit record, I was telling Susan how I was working with a few leaders to create like an onboarding process for new ambassadors in our company. And and when I was reading the scripts that they were writing or the content that they were writing, and these two ladies I was working with were both in the baby boomer age range, their messages were so formal and I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't envision saying this, right? So that's why it really matters. Like when we're thinking about getting scripts from people, we need to number one, consider who the script came from, who originally made that script, and number two, who are we saying it to?
Yeah.
Because all of that stuff matters. Because if they would have taken their verbiage that they created it and sent it to a millennial,
Mm,
it would have been just like this big X, like no
right,
go here, no
right.
go here. Like, who are you, lady? Right.
Yeah,
So I think this is really important when we're talking through this to take a few quick notes. And what I'm going to do is I usually do blog of our podcast. I will put these tips in the blog post. So you can find that on the blog page for the podcast, because I think these are great tips to keep in your tool belt for sure.
yeah. And then one more thing with the baby boomers, if you want to really get on their good side, that handwritten note, if you write them a handwritten thank you note, I think that would speak volumes for how you respect them and how you think of them and how you communicate with them. So think about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, are we ready for the Gen X?
I think so.
Okay, so Lisa and I are both Gen Xers. So this is anyone born between 1965 and 1980. Okay, so Lisa, what makes Gen Xers tick?
Okay. So they're typically very independent, very practical, and they they value like saving time. I mean, wasting time is just not a priority in their
Yeah,
life, right? And they're very authentic.
yeah. What works with them? How should you communicate with them?
I giggle at this because it's like be super quick. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't have time for the long drawn out poor me stories, or and I shouldn't say that because um people value their stories and the reasons why they do that. But be quick with your responses. If you can't do
yeah,
something, just tell me you can't do it.
right.
And then be very clear when you communicate. Okay, whether communicate in text or email only. Don't pick up the phone, please.
Yeah, we don't want to, if someone calls me, I'm like, I'll just let it go to voicemail. Text me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to hang out on the phone.
or I'll decline with a message. Can't talk now, or
Yes, yes,
and funny that I'm laughing, but I mean, we have a lot of humor in
yeah,
Gen X, right? And flexibility. I mean, and I look at it in a terms of doing multiple things. So not putting all your eggs in one basket. Like we're very
mhm.
resourceful and flexible.
Yeah, and we're the baby boomers. We were laughing because I cannot say that for some reason. The baby boomers are very formal. We, the Gen Xers, like to have fun. We like the humor. We like the authenticity, like Lisa said, but we are much more relaxed and easygoing than our baby boomers.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so what should we avoid, Lisa, with the Gen Xers?
Do not micromanage us.
Mm,
If you
that word just makes me cringe.
give us a task, let us do it, and then just
Yes,
we'll get it done. Just leave us alone.
yes.
And I I always say this, I never want to come across as salesy or fake. Like I
Hmm.
am who I am. If you like me, you like me. If you don't like me, then I'm sorry, but we don't want to be somebody we're not, right?
Yeah, and that goes back to that authenticity too. We
Yeah,
like to be authentic and real. We do not like to be salesy or fake at all.
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so what are some phrases we can use with our Gen Xers?
I'll keep it quick.
Yeah,
I'll
and
keep it
really do
quick.
keep it quick.
And then something like, noticing that their time, make sure that you notice that their time is valuable. So say something like, I know your time is valuable. Here's what I've got for you. And then just get right to the point. Like
Yeah,
don't dance around the subject. Just ask your question and carry on.
yeah. And I think it's interesting. It talks about time so much. I think I mentioned on one of the other podcasts that time affluence, having me be in control of my own time is so important to me. Whereas
Hmm.
I think the baby boomers, they had a 9 to 5 job. They worked overtime. They had a very strict schedule, whereas a lot of us, like we work from home, we do direct sales, we
Hmm.
have a flexible schedule. We're able to manage our time well, but we like to be in control of our time. And that micromanaging, I think that's one of the beauties of direct sales is that there's nobody micromanaging us. I had a boss once that was a micromanager, and I couldn't work under her. She didn't allow me to do anything, so that's never a good thing. So Gen Xers, we do not like to be micromanaged.
Yeah, don't waste our time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the millennials. This group of people were born between 1981 and 1996. Um, so just curious, like what makes a millennial tick?
So millennials like purpose. They like flexibility. They like collaboration. They like to work with others. And they like the digital convenience. So these people are on their phones all the time or some kind of device. They embrace all of the technology, but they also have a purpose also.
So I always giggle because when I think of millennials, like they are very digital savvy, but not necessarily tech savvy. Like
Mm,
in terms of, operating like they can operate apps, but give them the computer and have them try to figure it out. They could do it, but they prefer to work on their apps and their social media and stuff like that. But
yeah.
not to say that that's like a generalization over everybody, but it's just something that I've noticed, which was quite unique. But
Yeah. It's almost like the newer technology and
exactly.
apps they're good at.
Yeah, for sure. Chromebooks and the
Yeah,
iPhones and all that stuff. But
exactly.
all right. So funny enough, so what makes them work?
Yeah,
Because
so
I know what you're gonna say.
yes, they love social media. They love the voice text. So Lisa and myself, the Gen Xers, we like the typing text. They like the voice text, which is interesting. So if you're communicating with a teammate or a customer who was born between 1981 and 1996, you might want to do a voice text. And they love emojis, which is really funny because my dad, he is a baby boomer. He loves emojis whenever he texts me.
I
I'm like,
think they just think of they're funny, right? There's like, oh, and then
the
they often
emoji
use the
king.
wrong one though.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so millennials also enjoy stories over sales. So they like to hear the story about, maybe who is this product good for, or, something, not just sales, not just buy this, but give me a story around it.
Yeah. And there's some things that you should always avoid when you're talking to millennials. So what would
Yeah.
that be?
Millennials do not like long emails. So if you're sending them an email, you want to make it short and sweet. They don't like corporate sounding language. So be very informal, lots of emojis, fun, colorful, very informal.
All right. So when you're talking to them, what are things that you could try to say to them?
So one thing that's really good is if you say, I thought of you when I saw this. They like to be thought of. Like, here's this product. You don't want to say, here's how much it is, here's what it can do, but hey, I thought specifically of you when this product came out or when this sale was announced. And you also want to say, here's how this helps people. So that goes in with the stories over sales. They don't just want to know the product and what it can do. They want to know about the people using it, and if you think that they should be using this product and why.
Hmm. Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
so next we have now Lisa and I were talking about this earlier. We say it differently. Lisa is in Canada. I am in the US. I'm in New Jersey. So I say Gen Z, and she says
Gen Z.
Gen Z. Depending on where
But
you
I mean,
were,
we say
where you
Gen
are in the
Z
world.
too, but it's just I see that and I immediately say Z, but I don't know. I know.
Funny.
But and then I did my alphabet and I'm like, well, but I think I said Z in my alphabet. Like, I don't know. It's all just I'm not formal. It's just you do your own
Funny.
thing.
You Gen Xer, you. Okay, so Gen Z, these people are born between 1997 and 2012. Okay, so what makes them tick, Lisa?
Well, these people are usually, or this group of people are usually very creative. They like to be very individual. Like they don't follow the crowd, right? They like quick info. And this is where we think about the impact that reels have made.
Mm,
And I think it all stems from the Gen Z getting into the buying phase, right?
yeah,
It's like
and
those
TikTok.
quick and TikToks. Yes,
Yes,
exactly. Those
yep.
quick, like almost like infomercials in the reels
Mhm.
that, and that's what they're craving, right? And
Yeah,
then they also value social impact.
yeah,
So like, they want to make a change and make an impact in the world. So
yeah. So are your kids
mhm.
Gen Zers?
Yeah,
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 my
both of
kids are
them.
too. Yep.
Hmm.
Okay. It's always interesting to kind of find someone in that generation. So you have like a picture and be like, yeah, they definitely fit into that
Yeah,
generation.
for sure.
Okay. So what works for them? What do they like?
Well, most of the time, you say text me, but no, they're into the DMs and the PMs.
Yeah. Not
So
even
it's like,
PMs, like mostly
or the
DMs, because
Snapchats and the all
yes.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And again, the short videos. So
Yeah.
like your reels and stuff like that, memes. My kids are
Yeah.
forever sending me memes.
My
It's
gosh,
like,
yes.
and half the time I have to say, can you explain that to me? Because it has their lingo on it, and I just don't even know what that means. But and
Yeah.
then they like authenticity. So they could smell fake a mile away. So,
Yeah.
be real and you'll make a good connection with them for sure.
Yeah. And talking about social media too, the Gen Zers, they're on Instagram and TikTok. They are not on Facebook.
No.
Whereas the Gen
Very
X,
few,
I
very few
think
are.
Gen
Yeah.
X consumes most of Facebook.
Hmm.
I'm not sure, are the millennials? I think they're on Facebook and Instagram. They're kind of like the
I think
the
they're, yeah,
transitional
yeah,
generation.
for sure. Yeah. I don't know exactly. Like might be an interesting podcast to do where we actually break it out
Yeah,
into where to find your customers and if you're looking for this group, because I'm sure there's
yeah,
stats on that somewhere.
right,
Um,
right.
but it would be kind of interesting to find out exactly what the breakdown is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the Gen Z, what should we avoid?
Don't be formal.
Yeah.
You know, you use some of their slang words if you can.
Oh, but use
Um,
them appropriately or else you will be made fun of. Make sure you know what you're saying.
Yes, because the words don't always mean what we think they mean.
Right.
Another thing to avoid with them is like being too wordy. Like don't like make it short. And I think that's why they sort of created their own talk, like their own way of saying things, because it's just the way we speak maybe is too many words for them. I don't know, but they get the
And I,
point across in fewer words.
yeah, and I think their attention span is much shorter than ours and the baby boomers. Baby
Hmm.
boomers, they can read a book for hours. Gen Z, like, they're not going to sit there and read for a long time. I think their attention span, maybe because of the social media scroll, is much shorter. So you need to be very concise, very quick. You need to know what you want to say and say it well and move on.
Yeah. And they also get frustrated when you're just not into tech. Like if you don't understand the tech
Yeah,
world, right? So if
yeah,
they're sending you a reel, you need to know how to find it. Like I think of
right.
this, I think of this with my husband. My sons will send them a reel and he's like, I'm not on Instagram or something. And it's like, well,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
be
yeah.
on Instagram then,
Right.
right?
Well, and sometimes I find that the reels my kids send me, like, I'm trying to watch the video happen, but there's also words, and I'm like, am I supposed to watch the video or read the words? Like, I can't do both at the same time, so I have to watch it like twice. They're
Well,
like,
see, they
Mom, you
they
kind of
they
missed
do
it. Like,
that. They do that on purpose so that we stay on their reel longer and it gets
maybe.
longer views, right? Because we're doing that. We're like, okay, well that doesn't make sense. And
I
yeah.
know. Oh, it is a whole nother language. Okay, so what are some phrases we should use with our Gen Zers?
So definitely when you're talking to them, they want to know about trending stuff. So
Yes.
like, hey, did you know that this is trending? Or something like, what do you think about this? And getting their opinion on something,
Yeah.
to making them feel like they're a part of it. Like, and they're
Yeah.
making that, like going back to that social impact, like they have a say in what's going on.
Yeah, I think the word trending is key for them and the influencers. Who is using this product?
Hmm.
I think that is huge also.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Now, I don't think we probably won't have many customers yet or
Yeah,
uh
not yet.
in this age range, but we do have that generation alpha, which is Susan and I were both saying like we didn't even know this one
I
existed
didn't even
because
know
it's
this
just
one.
like so new, right? This is people born between the years of 2013 and 2025. Um, so just because I mean they're coming soon. They're coming soon to a customer near you. So
Yeah, so this is
what
interesting to see. Like, these are the little kids in your neighborhood. Like,
yeah,
this is how they're going to be. So this was an interesting one.
yeah. Okay, so what makes them tick?
So, visuals, they're very visual learners. They are fun learning. They like to have fun when they're learning. So more, I guess kindergarten, my sister's a kindergarten teacher. I should ask her, but be more entertaining than just informational. And they are very interactive. So gone are the days of sitting at your desk, learning with the teacher, drawing or writing on a chalkboard, which don't even exist anymore. This is very interactive.
Like
So
hands-on almost, right?
yes,
Yeah.
out of your seat, working with something, playing, learning. So very different.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So what works for them?
So again, those visuals, they are very much visual learners, very simple explanations, and they are hands-on. So if you're teaching them about physics or science, they want to do an experiment.
Hmm.
They want to physically conduct an experiment and do it that way. And they love stories too. So this is not just book work. The Gen X, the baby boomers, when they went to school, it was books. It was a chalkboard. Then we get into the millennials, Gen Z, Generation Alpha. They are not all, and it seems like we're going from digital computer to now physically hands-on making things and working on things. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So what should we avoid when we're dealing with Gen Alpha?
So overcomplicating, like we said before, you want to keep it very simple, and ignoring tech tools they love.
Yeah. I could see that though, because there's probably I let's face it, we go to places like YouTube and I even go to TikTok and Instagram and I'm learning,
Hmm.
right? These are actually learning platforms. They're not always entertaining. So if we take that out of the way they're learning things, they don't like that. Like they need to have the tools that they love to help them learn. So
Yeah.
I think that's what that refers to is that, you know, don't give them your grandma's old like encyclopedia. I think back, it's like my mother-in-law tried to give my sons her
Oh
encyclopedias, and
no.
they're like, "For what?
Yeah.
For
To
what,
keep the
Grandma?
back door open. I don't
I
know.
have Google. Like, for what,
Yeah.
right?"
I know. Yeah. That's
All
funny.
right, and when you're talking to them, what should you try saying?
So you should say things like, let's explore this together. Or do you want to help me make something? So different. I think of, a mom in the kitchen with her little one, like, let's make cookies together. And it's kind of refreshing that we go from the Gen Z and the millennials and even the Gen Xers, where we're very addicted to our phones and
Hmm.
the digital and the technology. Whereas the Generation Alpha, I feel like we're coming back out of that and getting more hands
I
on
think there's still going to be a
making
huge
things.
part of it, but it's going to be more than just having the screen right in front of your face. It's like
Yeah.
having the screen to the side, sort of walking you through what you're doing in front of you.
Or who knows
So,
if technology will change so much that it'll be more active and interactive,
well, we're going to
whereas
soon
right
have
now
the
it's very passive.
screens, we'll have the screens in like in midair, like on the movies where you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
motion your hands and they open up and you
Like a
just swipe like that.
hologram kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yes, yes.
So that's what we're just getting ready for. So.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So if we're
So very
thinking
interesting.
about these different demographics when we're actually working our business, these are great tips to sort of have in our back pocket for when we're talking to people because this goes back to me saying, and I think I mentioned this a bit at the beginning about scripts. So when we're talking about using scripts in our business, we need to think of a few things before we actually just paste and hit send. Number one, need to be thinking about who made that script.
Mhm.
Are they a boomer? Are they a Gen X, a millennial? Who made them? Because most likely, whoever made them, it's going to be in their tone and not necessarily your tone or the
Yeah,
tone of the person that you're sending it to.
right.
Okay. Then, number two, you need to think about adding your own flair to make it personal to you. But then, the last thing you need to do, you need to think about who you're sending it to.
Hmm.
So I couldn't see sending a formal message, a formal handwritten note to a Gen Z introducing my business and inviting them to come and join one of my parties. Like
Yeah,
they'd just be like, "What? What's this stuff?" Right?
yeah.
But if you sent them maybe a quick voice message or something, or a quick video message saying, "Hey, I'm hosting a cool get together, whatever. Um, I'd love for you to come and take a look and give me your thoughts about what these products are all about, like what you love about them." That's would be something more that talks to them.
Yeah. It is interesting. Not too long ago, we saw a video and a guy asked a bunch of, I guess they were millennials, maybe Gen Zs, to address an envelope. And where do you put the stamp? And where do you put the address that you're sending it to? And these kids had no idea. And I was like appalled. And I'm like,
Yeah.
surely my kids know. One of them did and one did not. And I'm not going to say which one was which. But I was like, are you kidding? Like
Yeah.
mailing a letter for the Gen Z, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, just don't do that. And I'm wondering, this is a question for you, Lisa, just your thoughts. As we are doing email marketing, do
Mm-hmm.
you think it would be a good idea to segment our customers or our teammates by the generation they fall in and create a different email for each generation?
So I don't necessarily know if you need to segment your whole list, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, say, for example, an invite to an event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can have conditional formatting in your emails. So you might have one verbiage to use that is going to be sent. But here's the thing, you need to know your audience in order to do
Right.
this, and you need to know
Right.
your audience well. My list is just way too big to even do this. So
Yeah.
I would just speak in my tone and not worry about anything else. Like I would
Yeah.
just deliver it in my tone. But if you were doing the conditional formatting, you can always have it like three different tones. Like it's going to be this is going to speak to your boomers, your millennials, your Gen Zs, or whatever, and then those would go to certain emails. But that would be a lot of work.
It would. And I'm
It would
thinking
be a
too,
lot of
I've
work.
heard this before too. Advice on sending emails is cover all of what we're talking about in one email. So you might have the heading and a shop now for those
Hmm.
people who are like, I see the words, I'm ready to shop. Have longer content and more explanation for those baby boomers or people who like the information.
Hmm.
Maybe have something interactive or a little video or reel or emojis that you're
Hmm.
catching the millennials. So maybe have a little bit of each, um, so that we're reaching every single generation within our emails.
But yeah, so definitely like the emails, I go back to like, you know, how we were talking about with Gen X, we like stuff quick, right?
Yeah.
So that just goes to show that with an email, I'm the type of person that I don't read emails. I
I
know
look
that
at headings. Yeah.
a lot of stuff, a lot of work goes into the emails.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't often read them and I feel bad about that. But if you give me bullet points, I'll
Bullets.
skim
Yeah.
those. If you give me a click now button, I will click that and take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't go through and read every single word, right? So
Yeah. And that's
I,
important for our blogs too. Those bullet points, long explanation, short explanation, buttons, emojis, so that you're covering everything. If someone wants to read a long blog, it's there for them. But if
mhm.
someone just wants to skim, get the important points, move on, then that's available too.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting to drop a couple of our blogs into ChatGPT and ask it to rate this um,
Ooh,
to be like, you know, to
yeah,
appeal to a millennial or to appeal to
yeah,
a Gen X.
yes,
And then maybe we would be able to sort of like share it differently,
yeah,
right? Like share blog posts differently, maybe, yeah, categorize them different. It would be
yeah,
interesting to see what it did, or maybe like just
yeah.
include bits and pieces in into that. But I think I might try that just to see what just to
I'd
see
be
what it
very
does, right?
educational. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would really teach me how each generation is looking to receive the information. That's a really good exercise to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we went through a lot here. So
Yeah.
what do you think we should close off with? Like, is there like a call to action that we should give our listeners or?
Hmm. So I think it's just important to know where your customers and your teammates are. So maybe think of one shift you can make in how you communicate with each generation. So if right now you are communicating the same way to all generations, maybe be more aware, like, okay, here's a baby boomer, like they want that respect. They are loyal. They want a face to face. Maybe, Lisa, pick up the phone and call that person because they would probably be so excited. You know, if that's how they communicate best, then even though we hate talking on the phone, it's not about us, it's about
Hmm.
them. So they would be really excited to get a phone call.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe try the voice text to those millennials if you haven't done that yet. I know I am so quick to just text, type out the message and send it, but I can try a voice text to my millennial friends. What about you, Lisa? What are some other ways?
Well, I think that, most of us are doing our business or a lot of our business on social media.
Mhm.
So I think taking these tips and applying it to our business, our social media business, could be very easy
Mhm.
because number one, most people have their birth date in there. So you really know what age group that you're
Yeah.
dealing with. Number two, you could probably determine their tone and what they like by just skimming their wall. So my tips for you is like when you're using this and when you're using social media in general, don't just go in with cold replies and just go in and blanket reply to everybody. Like
Yeah.
actually go in and look at the person's timeline. Determine the tone that you need to talk to them
Hmm.
and then adjust your response to them personally. And I think you're going to see your business will grow so much faster if you personalize your approach to every customer that you're dealing with. It's not going to be as quick and easy, but growth isn't always quick and easy,
Yeah. And just keep
right?
in mind too that everyone wants to feel seen and heard.
Hmm.
Focus on the customers and how they receive information, how they feel loved, how they feel cared for. That communication is so, so important.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think that we gave you guys a lot of information here to take away. And again, remember, I said that I'll put all these point forms in the blog associated with this episode so that you could just go in and sort of screen capture it and take it away with you because there's a lot of useful information here. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's episode of The Other 99%, and we will see you again next week, everyone. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would take a minute to rate and review the podcast, I would absolutely love it. And if you know someone who really needs to hear this podcast, please feel free to share it with them. More listeners, the better. And if you know someone who would like to be a guest on the podcast or you yourself would like to be a guest, be sure to check the link in the show notes or visit lisaduck.com and click Be a Guest. We'll talk to you soon.